Yeah. That's awesome. Hello, my friends, and welcome back to another Yap session. It is I, Keith, the DM for Fragments of a Lost Home and for Misery's End. Okay, so today there's so much stuff I want to talk about. I've been planning shit for the most recent session for Fragments of a Lost Home. It'll be for session 22, and oh my God, dude, I think I just created the coolest fucking region in Lothmanger of all time. I'm so excited for it. Since this will probably come out before the episode, yeah. Essentially, the players are gonna go into this region of Lothmanger. It's called the Underwisp. They're going to go to a town called Scaethyn. Underwisp is basically a floating fucking lake that has a massive sea serpent in it. That's like an ancient creation of both fucking Fane and Marinus, and it's like one of like several ancient like leviathans or creatures. Bro, I'm so excited for it. I thought this was the coolest creation. I have such like a thing for big, huge like creatures and like scaling in size of like big monsters in worlds, like fantasy worlds. It's so cool. Like a fucking in Elden Ring, the big walking bell towers or whatever. Those things are so cool, dude. Like, to me, it's awesome. Anyways, so I love big ass fucking creatures, and in this world, in this new region they're going to, big serpent in this massive floating lake, and there's a town built under the lake, and this town is kind of like a farming town because the rain is blessed by this ancient serpent, and like crops can grow, and they basically make the crops and like food for Lothmanger, like the most of the region and stuff, right? But they use these creatures. They are based off of I'm gonna butcher the name, amphitheres, but they're like wyvern-like creatures. They're like serpent-like dragons with wings. They're really cool looking. I love the design of them. So I named these creatures High Drivers. They are amphitheres, serpent drakes, or dragons that these people of Scaethyn use to fly into the floating lake to like fish and stuff. Well, it's called fishing, but it's this weird like specialized type of fishing where they use like harpoons to like spear fish and kind of like, but it's so cool because it's like instead of a lake on the ground, it's a lake in the air, and it's so cool and I love it. It's like constantly raining in this region. It's slightly shaded, but there's always like shadows of like fish on the ground. Instead of like there being clouds, the shade comes from the shadows of the creatures from above, and like a big ass serpent, and like, oh my God, dude, I love it. I love writing and I love creating shit, and I love D&D. Okay, anyways, I just wanted to spout that out because I'm so excited for this next session coming up, and we're gonna have a guest character in the next session too, so that's gonna be awesome. Anyways, welcome back to the DM Thoughts series. So today I want to talk about Ethos, Scaethyn, and the greater universe that I have written. I need this as my special little. Ooh, I just had like 3 strokes there. I have a little notebook here that I'll be referencing because I drew out the greater universe for this world, or this. I have drawn the greater universe, which consists of Ethos, 3 other biospheres, and 3 other worlds that we'll talk about, and I'm so excited to talk about this. This is just going to be another episode where I'm just going to spew out a whole bunch of information about stuff that I've created, the ideas behind it, the inspiration behind it, and just, yeah, that kind of stuff. It's going to be a lot of fun, so buckle up, fuckers. We're going for a ride. Okay. So before I get into Scaethyn and describe its regions, I want to talk about the greater universe, and then we'll start, going into the world and stuff like that. I called this the Statera universe. Statera universe. I thought it sounded cool at the beginning, but considering redoing the name. Like I talked about in the last episode describing the gods, I'll go over it a bit. The world of Ethos is at the very center of what I call the bubble. The bubble is like this force field that Zephelion, the god of the heavens, created to keep in the energy that the 3 biospheres, the 3 blooming biospheres, which contain one of the blooming temples from the blooming gods. Each of these 3 biospheres harvest energy, and then Ethos kind of siphons from those temples, which powers the rift. So in this bubble, it is this force field that keeps the void out, right? Wow, this is already a clusterfuck. There are 3 biospheres surrounding Ethos. One is called Orsis, another one's called Geminus, and the other one is Arbor. I believe I didn't write this down, but I had it in my mind at the time of drawing this. Orsis is going to be the blooming biosphere that represents Gol, the god of darkness. Geminus is going to be the god of light, and then Arbor is going to be Atakun, the goddess of the biosphere. So each 3 of these biospheres that surround Ethos hold the blooming temple. Again, these blooming temples are like batteries that harvest life energy from these worlds, and then Ethos siphons off of them to power the rift. So, again, like I said, I think it was the previous episode, Vasilius created these biospheres and Ethos as a machine. This whole bubble, this force field, all 4 of these biospheres are a part of this massive planetoid machine that is used to power the rift. So I thought it was a cool idea. I keep looking over here because this is where like the screen is for my camera, so I apologize. I'm actually gonna move it over here so I can look. Yeah. So yeah, that's what I got here. Oh God, please. Yeah. Wait, gotta get the angle right. There we go.
This right here is my favorite thing. I think about this every day.
That's kind of like the greater universe. At some point, we will be traveling to one of the blooming biospheres, maybe 3. I'm not too sure. This whole campaign is going to take place in Ethos, but I think it'd be really cool at some point to fucking bamf them into one of the blooming biospheres just for like lore purposes. But I don't know if there will be a purpose within the story to go to them unless one of the blooming temples is under some sort of like attack, or there's something going on that they have to go resolve, something like that. They might be called upon by a god to like go help in one of the other biospheres, something like that. I don't know. But many of the gods reside upon Ethos. Only a few other gods would reside on the blooming biospheres. Those are the 4 worlds in this universe that power the I talk about these like they actually are going to be used in the campaign, which like I said before, don't think they are. But in terms of my own writing and what I want to do, because I do plan on making like all of this stuff that I've been writing about into like an adventure book or campaign setting, like a third-party D&D book kind of thing. In my mind, I want to have Ethos as like the playable world, the world that most likely our campaign takes place on. But the 3 blooming biospheres can also be played on, but really their main purpose is for like story stuff, if that makes sense. So I thought in my mind it'd be really cool as to give a reason, or not reason, to explain greater world and how the blooming temples work. They would be on their own biosphere. They're in this bubble. They harvest energy. Ethos siphons that energy. It's, in my mind, it's really cool. But again, it's so hard for me to explain. But in my mind, I play like this cinematic, like fucking movie that I'm like, oh, this is so cool. And there's like light going around, and like Ethos, you would see from like an outside perspective, you would see Ethos and this kind of like light swirling around it, which is like the life energy that Ethos is harvesting from the other biospheres, and the biospheres are constantly producing this life energy that they're harvesting from their own fucking planets. And oh god, it looks so cool in my head, but it's just so hard to be like, hey, this is what I'm seeing. Outside of the bubble, there's also no light whatsoever. Zephelian's main task was to create light within the heavens. Or not really create light, but create like the stars, which would create like energy, light, throughout like the space between the planets, I guess. So yeah, I just, in my mind, visually looks really, really cool. In terms of like writing and stuff like that, it makes sense as to like how this planet machine works and how it powers the rift and stuff like that. So it's just really fun, flavorful ideas in my head. Now, when it comes to the greater history, not just the history of Ethos, but the history of this universe that Vasilius has created, at first, Ethos was like the only planet created, right? Ethos was the only thing that was needed to power the rift. But then I thought about it. I'm like, okay, I have written the history of Ethos, like its entirety of its timeline. I have all of its timeline written down. But I wanted to do more with that. I wanted to do more with the universe. So I thought it would be really cool if Ethos was the only world that worked as the machine. As in, there were other planets that were created that failed to power the rift and became what I call husk worlds. So there are 3 husk worlds, which means there were 3 other worlds before Ethos that were built to power the rift and failed. And now they are kind of floating out in the void, destitute of life. Maybe. Because I think it'd be so fucking cool to have the players go out to one of these husk worlds or be like Banff there and be like, Ethos was the only world that was perfected, but the other worlds weren't. And here's what Vasilius did and all the life forms and everything. And maybe there were like previous gods to this universe that like once existed, but now don't. And maybe that could be the god of secrets. Maybe he was like the first, like one of the first gods to be created on the Husk world and then died. Bro. That'd be so cool. I'm coming up with ideas as I'm speaking. This is how my mind works, by the way. This is how I fucking work. And this is why I love talking about shit, because I'll be like, whoa, here's a fun, funky idea that I could use. Okay, so the 3 husk worlds that I have written are Primus, which is the first husk world, Primus, Palea, and then Mortis. So these were the 3 worlds that were built to power the rift, and then again they failed, and so they were kind of shunted out into the void, and then finally it was perfected. Ethos and the 3 blooming biospheres were created inside of this bubble, and thus now we have life, we have history, we have a timeline, and everything has been going good so far. So that's what I have for the greater universe. I don't have minute details written, but I think as of right now, it's enough for me to be like, if it ever came a time where I needed to describe or talk about the greater universe, I have details and I have things that I could be like, here you go. Here's some things that you would know about the greater universe or something like that. But until the time comes that I need to write about it more, or I get divine inspiration to write about it more, that's what I have as of right now. But again, this is just cool, funky things that I have to talk about for like the greater universe. But again, it may never be touched upon in Fragments of a Lost Home. But when I do write this third-party book that I have planned, this will definitely be in there as like details for all these things. And like maybe you can come up with your own reason as to why these things exist or what life exists on these planets. It would also be really fucking cool to come up with another race that would have existed on the Husk worlds and then have come over to Ethos. Maybe kind of like a demigod type of thing, but like a dead demigod race, like an undead, like a voidling type of thing, where like they came from a Husk world, but now they're suddenly in Ethos, and like, whoa, well, that would be kind of cool and funky and weird and awesome. Yeah. We're done with this. That's all I have to talk about for the greater universe. I kind of just wanted to that out there because I thought it was cool. So now we get to talk about Ethos, more specifically the regions among Scaethyn. So when I first started making Ethos / Scaethyn, all I did, I had a piece of paper, I had some dice, I threw them out on the paper, I outlined the dice and how they kind of formulated, and I showed this in a previous video, the map that I created on Incarnate. If you ever looking to make maps, go to Incarnate. Not sponsored, but it's really fucking cool. I created Scaethyn first and then kind of built upon it. At first, this is the first time that I've ever created a successful homebrew world to play in. So I really wanted this to be unique in my own way. The first idea was obviously the Rift, and the world was built around the Rift. And I wanted this continent to be weird, as in some things might not make sense traditionally. So like, there's no moon in Ethos. Why? Well, if you've seen Misery's End, you would know why. But Vasilius, in the Misery's End podcast, Vasilius was trapped in Ruidus, the red moon. So when he built this world, he said, I have trauma. Fuck the moon. We don't have moons. We don't like moons. But I'll create a god who can maintain the tides and work as if there was a moon. But no moon. We can either... Would you rather have moon, unlimited moon, but no tide? That doesn't make any sense. Or moon, unlimited moon, but no moon. So yeah, there's no moon on Ethos, but the tides still work as if there was a moon. So like, that doesn't really make sense, but you dive a little bit deeper into this world and how it works, it would make sense. Yeah. Fucking what else? The sun doesn't move. The sun stays in one place because the sun is not a star. So yeah, traditional things that you would have in like regular D&D or like in real life, it doesn't happen in this world. I wanted it to be weird. I wanted it to have like little details that would be like, that doesn't make sense. Why doesn't it not make sense? Well, go look for it in game and it'll make sense eventually once you find out why. So like, that's what I like doing. I like putting little things in my world that would be like, huh, that's weird. And until that player dives deeper into that weird thing, it's not gonna make sense. But when it comes around, it'll be like, oh shit, now I understand. And I love those aha moments, or those moments where it's like, oh shit, oh fuck. I live for those moments. It's so much fun in D&D, and I have a flair for the dramatic. So yeah, really cool, awesome shit that I like writing. Did I mention that? I love writing. Yeah, when I was first building Scaethyn, I made it really weird. I wanted it to be unique in my own way because so many people have made homebrew worlds and stuff like that, and every time I hear about someone's homebrew world, I'm always just like, that's fucking genius, that's amazing. So I wanted that reaction that I had to listening to other people, but my own writing. I want to make stuff that I go, oh shit, that's so fucking cool, but it was my brain that came up with it, you know? Yeah. Originally, when I created Scaethyn, it was just the Riftlands. Why? Because of the Rift. And the Rift did really weird things to this continent, specifically more around Anamnesis. Anamnesis originally was supposed to be this massive fucking city that spanned across miles and miles and miles and miles of just cobblestone streets, big fucking cities. It was supposed to be like the New York of D&D. But when I went to go actually build Anamnesis, like as a map, I realized this was a fucking stupid idea, and I shrunk down Anamnesis. So basically there are city states, and there are multiple cities and towns within each city state, and then you have the capital, which is the big city in each city state around Anamnesis. When I built the Riftlands, I absolutely love like the Scottish Highlands, Ireland, I think like Eastern or Western European, whichever one is more like Hilllands, that kind of thing. I love that as like a landscape. Is so fucking beautiful, dude. So I wanted a really big region that was more like hilllands, grassy green rolling hills, just beautiful. That's what I wanted. So the Riftlands is exactly that. It's split into the eastern and western Riftlands. The eastern Riftlands is more of like the Scottish Hilllands or Highlands, where it's like dark green rolling hills of grass, but more used for farmland. And in this area, you have the capital called Mirefold, which is the agricultural and farming capital of Scaethyn. It is also where the goddess Assunta resides. It's kind of built into this massive valley, and the ground is just rich with nutrients because Assunta lives there. But again, it's just supposed to be it's supposed to resemble like the Scottish Highlands and all that. And I just again love that kind of landscape. So the Riftlands is just really big plains, really big hillland type area. Pretty simple. Anamnesis was supposed to be the big thing in the Riftlands, while as everything else surrounding it was supposed to be more like smaller towns and stuff like that, more so wilderness. So if the players do decide to venture out of Anamnesis, either on foot or on like horse or mount or whatever, this would be the area to do more traveling stuff for D&D, exploration, maybe have some dungeons here and there, or like what I want to do, and I think it'd be really cool. Elden Ring did this, and I think don't quote me on this, I'm almost positive they call it a legacy dungeon, which is what is Stormwind Castle. Oh my god, I really hope I'm not butchering that. I love Elden Ring, but my memory is fucking abysmal, so it's shit. I'm almost positive it's Stormwind Castle. Oh god, I'm gonna feel so bad if that's not it. But like, it's a dungeon, but it's not in a dungeon, you know, it's a castle that you're exploring. You're inside and outside the castle, you're in its courtyards and all that, but all of it is a dungeon or dungeon. And so I think it would be really cool to have an outside dungeon. Like think of it like you go into a forest, but like every place you go has either an encounter, a puzzle, or something, but it's not a traditional underground dungeon, you know? In my mind, that's a really cool idea, and I would love to implement that in like traveling and exploration while playing like D&D and stuff like that. So yeah, there's a couple small towns in the Riftlands. None of them as of right now really worth mentioning, apart from Anamnesis and Mirefold, which are the bigger cities and stuff like that. That's the Riftlands. Pretty cool. Moving on. Again, no order this is just whatever I think is really cool. I really want to talk about the Isles of Sha'Trath Pangolin. Dude, okay, when I tell you I love writing, I love D&D, I love creating shit, I love also writing the history of stuff too. The Isles of Sha'Trath Pangolin is a massive region that's just all like based around like coral reef, tropical islands, beautiful area, heavily inspired by Avatar Way of Water. We'll get more into that, but the history of this region was there were two dragons, there were two brothers. They were brothers, and they hated each other. They hated their guts, fucking like Cain and Abel type of shit, where it was just a pure hatred for each other, and they would always fight. When they died, druids came to this region and they brought life magic to the area. When the druids started using the life magic, it seeped into the ground to where their bodies were buried, and since they were still full of rage, they were brought back to life by the druids' life magic, but came back as massive dragons. Like, we're talking ancient sized like not even that, bigger. We're talking like Godzilla sized dragons, right? Huge, big guys. They're big dudes. They came back to life as these creatures and just went ham. They were fucking fighting each other. But these were not normal dragons. I created these two dragons so I could create sub races for Dragonborns. You have Sha'Trath and Pangolin Dragonborn, or Sha'Trathian Pangolin Dragonborns. Sha'Trathian Dragonborns are, or I'm getting way too far ahead. Sha'Trath and Pangolin were the name of these brothers. When they became dragons, they fought and they created the coral reef. How? I'll get into that. So Sha'Trath, his type of dragon is one that I created. It's a longer, almost snake-like dragon, as his body's kind of more slithery. if that makes sense. It's not a traditional like bulky drake. He was supposed to be more serpentine like. He had big fucking like, we're talking like Dilophosaur type frills on the side of his head, and he would spew out boiling hot steaming water that he can infuse it with like paralyzing liquid. So the Sha'Trathian Dragonborns can do the same thing. They can spit out boiling hot water, which does fire damage but overrides fire resistance, and then you can enhance it kind of like a blood hunter to cause the effect of paralysis. I butchered that sentence, but you understand what I'm saying, I hope. So that's the Sha'Trathian Dragonborn, and that is Sha'Trath, the ancient raging dragon. And then you have Pangolin, and this one was inspired by the Dodogama, I think I'm pronouncing that right, from Monster Hunter World. It's this bigger, thicker type dragon with this massive like kind of blubbery jaw, and it can spew out just a ball of fucking molten lava, just a ball of magma. So when you get these two massive dragons fighting each other, my mind was that they created this coastal reef by spewing this boiling hot water and this magma. They created these tropical islands on this coral reef. So these two dragons, over centuries of fighting, created the coral reef. And then I forgot exactly what I wrote, but basically I think a god stepped in. No, it was Lumi. Yeah, Lumi stepped in and was like, hey guys, stop fighting, sleep. So she puts them to sleep, but every year they come back for one day and they duke it out. They fight, and it's awesome. But on that day, it's special to the Sha'Trathian and Pangolin Dragonborns, which are native to this region, because on that day, they also go to war. They back up their creators and they fucking fight. And so this region is just a constant battle between the Sha'Trathian and Pangolin Dragonborns. But on the day that they fight, or no, on the other days that they like don't fight, apart from that one day where they do battle, they try to live their lives peacefully. However, there are many like small tribes that will just go to war with each other. They'll do battle, they'll skirmish. You can see like on the map there are 4 different like towns and villages that I've created on here. There are 2 for Sha'Trath and 2 for the Pangolin Dragonborns. But in my mind, it's like those places will always be like attacked by the what the fuck am I trying to say? The opposite tribes. I don't fucking know. Dredge is supposed to be like the Pangolin capital, and then Sha'Dumul is supposed to be the Sha'Trathian capital. So like they're on opposite sides of the region, but it's like in my mind, like there are other tribes around that always like fight and clash and stuff like that. So yeah, really cool area, inspired by Avatar Way of Water, because they do not use traditional sea ships to travel around. They use the creatures of the coral reef to travel. So like also kind of inspired by Ark, because I love the sea creatures in Ark Survival Evolved. There are like bigger creatures that they could build like small tiny little like war bases on. They could use to like siege places. So like instead of it being like land battle, it's sea battles, but it's all with sea creatures. So you have like bigger sea creatures that can siege different tribes and towns and stuff like that, and then you have the smaller sea creatures that can move really fast and are used for like mobile like cavalry type stuff. So like, oh bro, I have so many awesome ideas for when we go to Sha'Trath Pangolin, and we will be going there in this campaign because there are two characters from Misery's End in Sha'Trath Pangolin, dude, and I cannot wait till we get to explore their story more. Oh my god, I'm so excited. One of my favorite places that I've written, because I just want to go there, because in my mind, I'm just like, I just want it to describe how beautiful this place is, dude. I can't. Oh, sandy white beaches, beautiful green tropical forests. I love it, dude, so much. It's so fucking cool. All right, so next one I wanted to talk about was the Mistwoods, which is right beside the Sha'Trath Pangolin Isles. So the Mistwoods, the original idea behind the Mistwoods is that the God of Secrets created this place just to fuck with people, because the god of secrets, the way in my mind, he was like, I'm going to create this place and then put an internal fog over it so that no one really knows what happens in the Mistwoods. But in reality, it's just kind of a creepy place. Like, that's really it. Apart from a few places where the Mist Elves lives, we'll talk about them in a little bit. This is just supposed to be a weird kind of creepy area. There's also spoilers if you're in my campaigns, there is one person from Misery's End in the Mistwoods that is negatively affecting the region. So Mistwoods was the only place in the greater universe as of currently created by the god of secrets purely to kind of show off his power as being more of a mental fuckery type of power, if that makes sense, where he just kind of this region, and people just don't know whether it's a safe place or if it's a dangerous place. They've heard rumors of what's in the Mistwoods, but they don't know if it's true. So everyone tends to stay away from the Mistwood, apart from the Mist Elves. So the Mist Elves were originally from Efflorescence, but they disbanded from their kin because they didn't like how the elves treat other people. They don't share the same ideals as the traditional elves of this world. So they kind of split off, and the closest area to them was the Mistwoods. So they traveled over the mountains, came into the Mistwoods, and built their own civilization in the Mistwoods. After centuries of being in the Mistwoods, they became known as the Mist Elves, which are kinder, more humble elves. They enjoy the company of others. They enjoy the nature that is Ethos. They enjoy the mystery of it all. They belong in the Mistwoods. It's their home, right? So Mist Elves consider the Mistwoods their homes. There's more to it when it comes to Dara, which is the cleric in Fragments of a Lost Home, for he did travel in the Mistwoods and lived with the Mist Elves for some time. So I was able to tell him a little bit more about the Mistwoods, which I was so excited when we were creating characters and stuff like that. But yeah, Mistwoods was a really cool place. And I totally forgot about this. This is where the Musai come from. So the Musai is another homebrew race of mine, which I always thought it'd be really cool to play a character that is purely just a plant. It is made up of plants, and you just play a plant. And I thought it'd be really cool. So I really like the Venus flytrap, and I thought it'd be cool to make a character that's based on the idea of the Venus flytrap. So the Musai are these plant creatures, and depending on where they were born or created, they represent the land that they were made in. So, for example, if a Musai is born in a jungle, it's going to be made primarily of jungle vines, plants, maybe some like really colorful flowers, stuff like that. If it's created in like a desert oasis, right, it's going to be made of like cacti, flowers, other small kind of like shrubbery, all come together to make the Musai. So like, again, depending on where it is, it resembles the land it was created in. So in the Mistwoods, they're going to be primarily made of, like, in my mind, it's kind of like vines. Mistwoods is kind of like a pine forest is how I would describe it. Maybe kind of more redwoods-y-ish, kind of. So yeah, vines, leaves. I have it pulled up here. I don't know why I just don't look at it. Plant-like creatures that can transform its torso into a large jaw that can trap and consume prey. Musai are made purely of flora or plant matter. Depending on the region they were made, their body may consist of wood, vines, flowers, roots, or a combination of those things. Musai were secretly created by Fane, the god of wildlife. He believed he could give life to plants and have them act like the elves that Tagaln had made. Fane was successful and was able to bring life to the plants. They are primitive creatures compared to the other humanoids on Ethos, but they are more capable of surviving the harsh jungles and forests of Ethos. Musai are curious creatures, as they are relatively new to the biosphere. They are neutral to other races, yet they would rather seek out friendly relations with others than be hostile. However, if provoked or angered, Musai can become ferocious enemies. Their innate ability to use their torso as a large jaw can be extremely useful in melee combat. Musai can also sense tremors in the ground as they can implant roots into the earth. So, inspired by many things, like their roots going into the earth was inspired by Toph from The Last Airbender being able to use tremor sense. I have their like stats or racial traits written out here. They have quite a lot, but in my mind, I'm like, I like giving things cool racial traits so that you have more things to play with, you know? So, Musai have tremor sense. They have roots that are connected to the ground, giving them the ability to sense vibrations within a 30-foot radius. They can pinpoint any creature on the ground within that radius. So this would be like an action that you can use to like dig your roots in the ground that spread out into a 30-foot radius, and anything that comes within that 30-foot radius, they can sense and they know exactly where it's at. And then I also gave him bioluminescence. Musai can make their body glow, shedding light in a 10-foot radius and dim light for an additional 20 feet. So I thought it'd be really cool, like when it's dark, their body can light up. This is very much inspired by the movie Avatar, Blue Monkey one, to be precise, where like when it becomes dark, all the plants like glow and stuff like that. That's what I wanted the Musai to have. Like when it becomes dark, they they glow all these different colors depending on what plant life they have implemented into their body. And then the main thing that I created for the Musai was the fly trap. So this is still a work in progress, but this is what I have written for it. As a bonus action, you can restrain a creature in your torso, make an attack roll, and add your proficiency modifier against a creature within 5 feet of you. On a success, the creature becomes restrained in your torso. They take 1d4 bludgeoning damage plus proficiency bonus poison damage. Damage increases at certain levels for each turn they spend trapped. Or they take 1d4 bludgeoning damage, in parentheses, yada yada, for each turn they spend trapped. Sorry, that was very confusing. So they take 1d4 bludgeoning damage plus proficiency bonus poison damage, and then that damage will increase at certain levels. They take that amount of damage for each turn they spend trapped. A creature can attempt to escape at the end of its turns, following rules of escaping a grapple. While you hold someone else in your torso, your movement speed is halved. If a creature is reduced to 0 hit points while trapped, you may consume the creature and regain 1d4 plus proficiency bonus hit points. So again, it's a work in progress because I haven't really play tested it at all, but I thought it was a cool idea. So that's what I have written for the Musai. I thought it's a pretty neat idea. And then the Mist Elf sub race, they have cool stats, or they have some cool stats and stuff. But yeah, this was the first one of the first homebrew races that I created and actually wrote out stats for. And yeah, so Mistwoods, pretty cool. Has a couple cool different races and homebrew stuff in there. So yeah, we will be getting to the Mistwoods as well, as it does relate to Act 3 of Fragments of a Lost Home. So I'm super excited for that. Now we're going to talk about the land of the elves, Efflorescence. So this place, I love beautiful landscapes. I mean, like, who fucking doesn't? But like, Efflorescence, again, is the land of the elves, and it's where Tagaln, the god of life, resides. So Efflorescence is paradise. It is beautiful. This place is supposed to mimic the Feywild in its beauty and like fantastical landscapes, but a more safe place. This region in particular shows balance. This region is supposed to show off true balance within Ethos, if that makes any sort of sense. So like, while this place is supposed to be paradise and where the god of life resides, death is still going to be where there's life, there is death, right? So even though this place is paradise, there's still, bits of death here and there, because balance needs to exist. So even though, again, it's paradise, you can still die from things that are in this, region. You can be walking along this beautiful forest with majestical green trees and perfect grass and all these beautiful plants, but these plants might try to kill you if you get too close, or this plant might be poisonous, or oh no, there's a big fucking creature coming to eat your ass. So like, even though there's beauty, there is still, bad things to it. But again, really, it's just supposed to be kind of like the paradise, the beauty of fucking Ethos, right? So Throne is the city of the elves. It's the city where the god of life Pangolin resides. It is on top of a floating cloud, and there is the city. The city of the elves is built upon a floating cloud. It is called Throne because that's where Pangolin sits and observes his land. That he sits upon his fucking high and mighty throne. That was the whole inspiration behind this. The inspiration behind this, like the original idea was, it came from I think it's the phrase house built on a hill or something like that, which is supposed to mean like, I think it's supposed to like symbolize like fucking like rich people. Oh my god, I sound so stupid right now. The inspiration behind Throne was supposed to be like, the elves and Pangolin both see themselves as high and mighty divine beings, right? So it would only make sense that they build a city above everyone else, because in their mind they are above everyone else. So they physically represent that by building a fucking city on a cloud. And they're like, oh, I am better than everyone else. So I live on Throne, the floating city. So that's the kind of the inspiration, or where my mind went to when I wanted to build a city that represented beings that believe themselves to be better than everyone else on this world. 99% of this region is occupied by elves. The other 1% are like people that they might have just let into their region or let live with them. But when we do get to Efflorescence in this campaign, every single NPC is gonna be elven, elf. They'll be elves. God, I'm talking too much. My brain is getting scattered. So before I fucking blow a goddamn fuse, let's dive into some other ones. Really quickly, I want to talk about the Loc Spires. There's a lot to this place, but I'm just going to explain the very basics of it. So Loc Spires was inspired by like Pirates of the Caribbean. I wanted this place to be very much a piratey-esque type of place. So it's inspired by the Thousand Needles in World of Warcraft, that region. I believe in the Cataclysm expansion, it becomes flooded, and I love that idea. I love the idea of there being like little plots of land on these fucking spires or like little mesas or whatever, but everything else is just water. So in the Loc Spires, you have these spires everywhere, but the entire land is flooded. In this area, you get both sea creatures and sky creatures. So think like dragons, drakes, wyverns, all that kind of stuff. And then sea leviathans, dragon turtles, fucking merfolk, all that kind of stuff come clashing together. You also get sea ships and sky ships as the main modes of transportation in this area. All the cities, towns, villages built in this area are places that would be built on the spires and kind of connect different spires. So like think of like Ewoks, kind of like Star Wars, how they're built in the trees and they have like little tree forts and bridges connecting to everything. That's essentially what is in the Loc Spires, but instead of it being trees, they're like the very tippy tops of like mountains, right? And there's like hanging bridges connecting to other places, and like circle-y cities and towns and stuff built on the spires, and yeah, pretty cool. Again, I sound stupid trying to explain it because in my mind, I can't word. I just don't word well, but I can write okay. So also in the Loc Spires, this is still a part of the region. The very northern part of it, there is a massive plateau where Prominence, the city of invention, resides. So in this area, I thought it'd be cool to place the city of invention and then make this region seem as if it's becoming destitute of life, because Prominence, the city of invention, is destroying all of the nature to build upon itself more and more and more, right? So like all of the resources there are being depleted, so they have to venture out more to get more resources. The forest that was once there is all burnt and destroyed to the ground. Think of like a fucking Lord of the Rings Saruman, when he gets all the orcs and everything to start taking down the trees of Fangorn Forest. That's what Prominence is supposed to be like, where it's like, it's the city of invention and technology. Everything here is great and advanced and steampunky. It's really cool. But there's an evil side to it. You know, they're destroying a very large region of Ethos. They're destroying nature. They're kind of going against some of the gods by doing this. But at the same time, they're building cool shit. So yeah, that's the Loc Spires, where land or sky and sea kind of meet, and there's very little land there, but very much supposed to be kind of like piratey adventure type of region. So my secondary campaign, which I play on Sundays, that group that I play with, we are actually playing in the Loc Spires, and they are doing kind of a pirate campaign that I've kind of based on One Piece in a way. I started watching One Piece when we started this campaign, and I'm like, it'd be really cool if they built like their own little crew and have gone to like town doing little things here and there and helping out people, and like saving towns and stuff like that. So it's been a lot of fun. I really do enjoy the Loc Spires, but since they are low level, I can't throw dragons and dragon turtles and sea leviathans at them and stuff, but soon I will. Igis is next. Igis was inspired by... Igis was made because when we were making characters, Dara originally, or the player who plays Dara, was talking a lot about a character being inspired by Nordic Viking tradition kind of a thing. So I'm like, it'd be really, really, really cool to have an entire region that was just snow and ice and mountains and Vikings and Nordic stuff. I love that idea. So Igis is just that. It's the land of snow and ice. And then there's Skjoldr. Skjoldr is the main thing I wanted to talk about when it comes to Igis. So I love being a little quirky little dude that makes really cool, weird shit. So Skjoldr is the city of giants. The history behind this is long ago, the progenitor god Valenfjord came to Igis and almost died. But when he stepped upon Scaethyn, the entire region was covered in frost and ice because he is the progenitor god of ice. So he basically froze this entire region. So long ago, it wasn't Igis. It was a different land. In fact, it was a part of the main Riftlands, right? But when he came, he changed the entire region. So he landed on the coast of Igis, and during this time, giants kind of ruled over this region. So they found Valenfjord and they wanted to help him. So Valenfjord blessed them by giving them the hammer of Valenfjord. I think that's what I call it. Anyways, Valenfjord gave them a fucking hammer to create a city big enough to protect him from Kazaya, the progenitor god of fire. So the giants built Skjoldr, a city to protect Valenfjord. When Kazaya came to fight Valenfjord, they were able to defend Valenfjord, but in the process, Kazaya created the like massive sea around Skjoldr, cutting off Skjoldr from the rest of Igis. So after that, Valenfjord once again helped the giants in return for helping him, and he helped them build the 3 great bridges. So these bridges connect the Skjoldr and this small tiny island, well, it's not really tiny, but this island to the mainland. So I have 3 bridges that span almost 60 miles, according to the continent map, that connect Skjoldr to the rest of the land. So the bridges themselves are their own little regions in Igis. The way I describe them is that Skjoldr, the city of giants, which is now kind of the city of Goliaths, which took over after, or they're like kind of the offspring of the giants, right? The descendants of giants. So they would take over. So in current day, Skjoldr is this unorthodox city that is, oh fuck, I'm getting ahead of myself. I'll talk about the Great Bridges in just a little bit. So where the fuck was I? I'm getting so scatterbrained. Stop all thought. Skjoldr. When I thought of this, I did not have Valenfjord. I didn't have anything like that created. All I wanted was a city that was built upon a colossus, and the city was built really weird so that when the colossus was activated, the city changes so that when the... I'm trying to formulate my thought into coherent sentences. This is fucking abysmal. The way it's built is very different to the other cities. It's built really weird, as in there will be like stairs that kind of lead to nowhere. Very much inspired by the Winchester House. There are walls that kind of stop and start in other areas and are not connected to each other. The reason why the city is built like this is because Skjoldr, the land underneath it, is the body of Valenfjord. So the reason why it's built so weird is that when Valenfjord at some point in the future comes alive to either fight Keziah or do whatever, when he becomes activated, the city changes and morphs to become an actual coherent city. Optimus Prime Transformer and then comes together as an cool built city on massive Colossus back, which is Valenfjord. So they basically built this city to work when Valenfjord wakes up. So as it currently stands right now, if you are an outsider to Skjoldr, you walk in, this place is going to be a fucking maze. You're not going to know where to go. Some pathways kind of just stop and start other places. So you'll be walking and then you'll get lost if you don't understand how to navigate this area. But when Valenfjord wakes up, it becomes an actual city that you can navigate pretty easily because it's meant to be built, or it's meant to be... The city was supposed to work when Valenfjord wakes up. It's not supposed to crumble when he wakes up. It's supposed to change with the activation of Valenfjord, if that makes any sort of sense. I butchered all of that, but I hope it makes sense because it does in my mind. I just can't word. Continuing on my train of thought, there are the 3 great bridges that are basically their own little regions. In this current day, the bridges are kind of the outskirts of Skjoldr. So anyone that's been banished or exiled from the city live on the great bridges, and they've kind of built their own little settlements and villages on the bridge. That's really it. There's a little bit more to it, but that's kind of the general idea for it. So if you have a picture in your head of what that would look like, then there you go. I've done my goddamn job. In Igis, there's a subrace of tieflings that I've also created. They are a part of the Frost Phantom tribe. So the Valenfjord tieflings, the subrace that I've created, these tieflings live in the worst of worst areas in Igis. It's called the Ice Plains or something like that. I forgot exactly what it is, but I could not be bothered to look it up right now. They live in a valley in Igis that is just pure ice and snow, and there's lots of blizzards and snowstorms that happen in this area, but these tieflings thrive in this area. They are called Frost Phantoms because if someone tries to travel through this valley, which is the quickest way to Skjoldr, they will come in contact with these Valenfjord tieflings, which use snowstorms and blizzards to their advantage to kind of like attack any travelers or raid them, ambush them, whatever. I like to think of them as the ice variants of the Tusken Raiders from Star Wars. That's kind of like the inspiration behind them. Anyways, that's Igis. It's kind of a Viking Nordics type of area. There's a lot of nomadic tribes that live here, more than there are actual cities or towns. Skjoldr being the only big city in this area, and it's a weird city because, again, it's built in the back of a fucking colossus, which is Valenfjord, the Sovereign of Ice. Yeah. Really quickly, going to talk about Dyet. Dyet is the land of the ancients. I love dinosaurs. So I built Dyet, which was originally supposed to be a part of the mainland, but I wanted there to be a big, cool island. So this area is kind of like secluded from the rest of Scaethyn, and that's because this area is it has dinosaurs on it. It has really big dinosaurs. It's got dragons. It's got a massive volcano region, and it's really cool. I really like the idea that there's an island that there's a lot of dinosaurs on there. So I had built this place because I wanted there to be dinosaurs, and I also wanted there to be dinosaur tamers, and there's only a rare few of them. But when I was writing the story for Dyet and the tribes that live here, I killed them all. So I was writing this little story about a dinosaur tamer and how they would kind of work in this world and stuff like that. And I'm like, wouldn't it be crazy if there was only one dinosaur tamer, and then they tried to make other people dinosaur tamers, but someone wanted to power all for themselves, so they killed all the dinosaur tamers, and the son of the original dinosaur tamer is the only dude left alive, and he made a pack of dinosaurs to kill off the evil tribes, and now he's like the only dude left on this island. So yeah, that's kind of the story of Dyet and the dinosaur tamers. Don't really know if that's going to be canon because I want there to be a lot of tribes with like dinosaur tamers and stuff like that. But in a small region, that could make sense if it was only a small portion of this land that would have like that kind of war going on between the dinosaur tamers and the genocide and stuff like that. Anyways, I just came up with a cool idea. Also in this area, there's a small town called Bastion, which is a town of prominence, essentially. These people went on a pilgrimage from prominence to Dyet to create a city on the land of ancients, but when they went to go build this town, the nature started fighting back. Dinosaurs and shit started fighting them, so they forcefully started taming dinosaurs, capturing them to protect themselves. So Bastion is inspired by Dinotopia, where kind of people and dinosaurs live together. But if and when we get to Bastion, we will see this town being constructed still. And people and dinosaurs will be living together. But once you start digging deeper into this town, you will see there's an evil secret. These dinosaurs were forcefully tamed. Most of them do not want to be there. They are just there because they were coerced into being there, or fucking enslaved or forced to be there, right? And the dude who runs Bastion, or like the mayor of Bastion, is an evil dude, but he knows how to tame dinosaurs in his own way. But it's not a good way. It's not good. And then you have the complete opposite, where the last of the dinosaur tamers, the original dinosaur tamers, that kind of live in harmony in Dyet, this guy knows how to tame dinosaurs peacefully into a way where he actually forms a bond with these creatures, to where he forms like a pack, where he's the alpha, but they all work together to like survive and stuff like that. So he forms a bond with the dinosaurs, while the other ones just kind of force them into being fucking pets, slaves, whatever. So yeah, Dyet is really cool. I really hope we get to go there at some point in the campaign because I love dinosaurs. All right, and now Glatinburough. Glatinburough is the fucking huge God, hit him with a porky pig. Glatinburough is the biggest region in Scaethyn, and there's a reason for that. There was once a king. His name was King Tens. He brought peace to all of Glatinburough. He was the ruler of this massive region. He brought peace to this entire area for years. Everyone loved King Tens. But when King Tens died, his son, King Katembo, who tried to take over and tried to do everything his father did, well, it was too much for him. He kind of went little nutso psycho and fucking massacred a lot of people in the big city of Yarborough. When that happened, Ryek, the god of fear, poisoned King Katembo's mind and essentially drove King Katembo to himself. And then he, Ryuk, took over Yarborough and spread fear across his entire region. So Glatinburough used to be this really green, beautiful, peaceful countryside landscape. But now it is gloomy, it is grim, it is bleak, it is gray, it is colorless. It is supposed to be kind of like this broken region, which at some point was once beautiful, right? So most of Glatinburough is kind of gloomy and dark, and not a lot of people like living in Glatinburough, but they are forced to because there is now a militaristic rule over Glatinburough after King Katembo died. Or did he? Maybe he's still alive, roaming the landscape as some demonic creature. Yarborough, which is the big city in Glatinburough, created the Bara Men. The Bara Men are kind of like the black ops of the military of Scaethyn, if that makes sense. So the Bara Men are highly trained, almost Spartan-like guards that are spread all throughout Glatinburough's towns and cities and all of that. They maintain complete order and peace throughout the region. They are incredibly strict, and they have a no tolerance policy on breaking the rules. If you break the rules, which could be like staying a minute out past curfew, you're dead. You are dead. They kill you. And so people are very much, I would describe them like the if you've seen Divergent or read the book, the abnegation, they're called stiffs because all they do is like help other people and don't do anything fun. They're very bleak people. That's the people of Glatinburough. They only live to survive, because if they do anything out of line that the Bara Men consider against the rules, you're dead. No tolerance policy. They will kill you if you do anything against the rules or anything wrong. It doesn't matter the crime or the severity of your crime. You are dead. They will kill you. So the people are so afraid to leave Glatinburough and enter Glatinburough. But it is the biggest region in Scaethyn, so it's going to contain the most people and it's the most diverse out of the entire region as well, because it's so vast and big. All types of races are going to live in Glatinburough, but they can't really, there's no fun. There is no happiness really. I mean, there kind of is, but you can't do much in Glatinburough. So I haven't written a whole bunch more apart from that, but the whole idea was, this is the biggest region in Scaethyn. What if it is under the rule of the Bara Men? Because the king is dead, the only heirs, or the other heirs that would have taken the throne, are gone. So who else to lead? The Bara Men. Because all other nobility that could have taken King Katembo's place were killed in that massacre. So only the military were there left to lead, and no one else has tried taking the throne because there's no heir. There's nothing else. So yeah, I thought it was a really cool story, an idea for Glatinburough. You also have the different regions in this area as well. You have Sectoon Swamp, which is this massive swamp-like area. You have Tovak Plateau, which is a really big plateau. I don't have Tovak Plateau fleshed out almost at all, so yeah, I don't really know what's in there apart from dragons could be cool. Then you have Zephelian's Mirror. Zephelian's Mirror is a cool little place because I remember seeing a picture of, I don't exactly know what it's called, but it's like a lake, and it's so still that it just mirrors the sky perfectly. And so that's what Zephelian's Mirror is. It is a massive lake on a big plateau that mirrors the sky itself, and it's supposed to be kind of like a holy place that people would take pilgrimage to if they seek answers that do not lie in Ethos. If they go to Zephelian's Mirror and pray to Zephelian, you will get divine help or inspiration from Zephelian, who can give you answers about almost whatever if it relates to Ethos or the greater universe. So yeah, And then you have Mercure Point. Mercure Point is a bit interesting. I don't really have it developed, but I have a little story. So long ago, or it's not really a story. It's more like a myth or a legend. So basically, Zephelion showed off his amazing and awesome power by just smiting this entire region with meteors and stars. And so people don't really know what happened there, apart from there was one day where meteors and stars fell and collided with the land, and it destroyed this entire region, which is now called Mercure Point. It is believed that an army of darkness or evil tried to raid Scaethyn or come onto Scaethyn, and Zephelion just said no and killed them all with his awesome power of the stars. I don't really know what else to do with Mercure Point, but I got some ideas, but not much. It's just supposed to be kind of like the area of myth and legend and rumor and stuff like that. Then you have Autumn Walk Shore, which is supposed to be, again, kind of a Feywild inspired area where there's lots of elves and half elves that kind of live together in peace. This is very much supposed to be like the peaceful, tranquil forest, but the entire land looks like autumn. Like the trees are orange and yellow and shades of those colors. The ground looks like it's about ready to turn to fall, you know. And there's a lot of different like towns and villages that are built inside the forest. And it's made of like living wood. So like Ents would live here with the elves or the people who live here. So it's just supposed to be kind of like a tranquil, very peaceful place. I wanted there to be a coast that wasn't a traditional beach, you know, like this is supposed to be a foresty, grassy, beautiful landscape that wasn't just a beach, you know. And then you have Vangerhall. My gosh, I can't even pronounce the thing that I spelt myself. Vangerhall is supposed to be this mountain region where gnomes and dwarves live. Here would be where Kilo resides, the god of the land. And then south of Vangerhall is this redwoods, large pine forest region. Don't really have that much fleshed out or developed yet for this area, but at some point we may venture there. But I did kind of just want a place where gnomes and dwarves would reside mainly, so that's Vangerhall. Yeah. I've talked a little bit about Nyarlathotep, but I'm going to go a little bit more in depth. So the original idea behind Nyarlathotep, I wanted a desert region. I wanted a desert region where there could be nomads and orcs and people that would live there in like a sandy, deserty kind of place. And it's hot and it's cool in sand dunes. And then I saw a picture of the salt pools, which I think are like in the Middle East or something like that. And I'm like, that is such a cool idea to have a desert, but there's like pools of water there. So it's like you get the cool desert dunes, but then also like super blue, clear, awesome looking pools of water. And then I'm like, I went a step further and I'm like, okay, what if the salt pools contained a lot of salt that was a precious resource in Scaethyn, and people started traveling to Nyarlathotep only to collect salt and then export it like into the mainland, you know, and sell it. And then I went a step further. I'm like, okay, what if Nexia, the goddess of greed, was like, hey, I see this as becoming a huge thing in this world and I want it. So no one else can have it now. It is mine. To protect the salt pools and her hoard or treasure, whatever, she created a massive, I say, stone jellyfish-like construct that resides over Nyarlathotep. And we're talking this thing big. This thing is region massive wide construct, right? And it patrols this entire region of Nyarlathotep, at least the salt pool region of it. And if someone tries to go there and steal salt, that thing will attack them. So I thought it'd be a really cool idea if there was like a short little part in this campaign where there are like salt runners, kind of like it's inspired kind of like by the Maze Runner, where you have people who travel into this really dangerous area doing this really dangerous task. You're putting your life on the line to collect this very precious resource and bring it back to the mainland. So that was the idea behind it. Again, not super fleshed out. As you can tell, there's a lot of other places here that I've like really put a lot of thought into. But I really, in this area, just wanted a massive fucking construct that could just live on this planet. And that's Nyarlathotep. So we have the salt pools and the dune portion of it. And then if you travel farther westward, you get the more Montana-like area of Nyarlathotep. There's a hot springs here, geysers, forests, mountains. It's very much inspired by like Yellowstone and Montana type of landscape. I was playing Red Dead Redemption 2 when I came up with this area, and I'm like, is this such a beautiful landscape? I love mountains, I love hot springs, I like geysers. So I just put it into this world and made it its own region, which is just the western side of Nyarlathotep. So yeah, really cool area. In my mind, super beautiful. A place where you would go to kind of like just like rest and or hunt. There's a lot of like hunting parties and stuff like that. Yeah, it's really cool in my head. I think it's really cool. And then we have the Mirefold. So when I first made my very first homebrew campaign, there was a portion of this region that had a plagued land, and I don't know why. I fucking love the idea of a region that is completely plagued by some sort of scourge or disease or something that affects everything. The land, the water, the creatures, everything. So that's the Mirefold. The Mirefold is the scourge lands of the Riftlands or of Ethos. So this area was developed little by little. So originally it was like, I just want a land that's plagued by some sort of scourge. And then I'm like, okay, I want this land to be contained by the gods, as in they interjected themselves and said, if this scourge spreads anymore, Ethos is fucked. So Kilo created the mountains around the Mirefold to contain the scourge. And then I went a step further and was like, okay, I want a city that it was only built to keep the scourge from getting into Ethos. So then I built Ocelia, the holy city, where holy warriors are drafted to this place to maintain a divine force field between the Mirefold and the rest of Scaethyn. So it was heavily inspired by the Black Gate from Lord of the Rings. So there's a massive gate spanning across the opening or entrance to the Mirefold. And it's also inspired by the Banner Saga. If you've ever played the Banner Saga, on the third game, there's a darkness that spreads all across the land. And on the very last part of the game, there are a few wizards or mages, arcane users, whatever, that set up a force field between the city and the darkness. And in that game, you have to constantly fight at the walls of this city to keep out the creatures of the darkness who are penetrating through this force field that the mage users are keeping up. So that's what's happening here in Ocelia. Not only is the wall built to keep out the scourge, but holy warriors, paladins, clerics, wizards, that kind of stuff, they come to Ocelia to help maintain the holy wall or this force field that keeps out the scourge. I also wanted Ocelia to be, like I was explaining before, a legacy dungeon where it's a massive city that is purely built like a dungeon, where all the houses, the streets, the capital, the castle, whatever, all have creatures and puzzles and tricks and traps and stuff like that, which I think I might do later in Fragments of Lost Home. Spoilers, maybe, if I ever do that. But I thought it'd be really cool if the Mirefold did take over Ocelia, but the only thing stopping the Mirefold from continuing into Ethos is the last ruler of Ocelia who died, did something to basically stop the scourge of the Mirefold from spreading into Ethos. And I that'd be a really cool idea, because like, what if like the players come into Ocelia for some reason, they see this dude who is dead on a throne and he comes alive as this undead lich-like creature, and they kill him, and whoopsie daisies, he was the only thing keeping the Mirefold scourge from getting into Scaethyn. So now after he's dead, Scourge gets into Ethos and they have to find another way to stop it. Like, that's a cool concept. That's a cool idea for an entire campaign, right? I think so. But with how this current campaign is going, I don't know if that's going to happen, but we'll see. We'll see. I still think it's a really cool idea in my mind. I also went a step further in creating the history and developing the Mirefold. So, the Mirefold Scourge, spoilers, is created by Atrolzel, the god of madness. Long ago, I can't remember if I've written in, during one of the harmonizings, which is when the gods fought against each other for like dominion, when the gods were fighting, Atrolzel tried to stop, no, it was during the second harmonizing. So this would have been recent. Ooh. Did I just fuck myself over with my own history? Maybe. We might have to work on that. Anyways, at one point in time, Atrolzel tried to eat the rift to stop the gods from fighting. He thought if the rift went away, we wouldn't have to fight. He was trying to save everyone. So he tried to eat the rift, which didn't help or work in any way. In fact, it shunted him all across Ethos to the Mirefold. So he kind of splatted into the Mirefold and his body kind of fused with the land. And since he went insane over trying to like eat the rift, which is a tear in the fabric of reality, his body fused with the ground. And since he's the god of madness, his body became the plague, which is why when I was talking about the gods, he doesn't have arms or legs. He has a torso and a head. So his arms and legs kind of fused with the land, creating this plague, which started spreading rapidly. And if it wasn't for Kilo stepping in, along with the Holy Warriors in Ocelia, the Mirefold Scourge would have spread all throughout Ethos, killing everything, and it would have been Atrolzel's fault. But Atrolzel had good intentions for trying to stop the gods from fighting, but it ended up doing major damage to Ethos. So whenever we do get to the Mirefold, and we will travel into the Mirefold just a little bit, we'll get a lot more lore on Atrolzel and how kind of the Mirefold works and why it's plagued, and we'll get to see some really cool creatures. And I didn't realize till later on that I basically made Caelid from Elden Ring in Ethos, because this place is all red because Atrolzel's body is red. All the creatures here are like plagued and warped and malformed, like the creatures in Caelid in Elden Ring. So yeah, I kind of just took Caelid and into Ethos. Okay, the last region that I have, this region, I didn't really know what to do, so I made a little story about it. It's called Three Brothers Rock. So in the last video, I was talking about how Allgard has the greatest influence out of all the gods because everyone in Ethos has at some point fought, which is direct inspiration from Allgard, right? So Allgard, as well as creating the Nine Hells, he created 3 champions of himself. He blessed 3 brothers with his power. They have great fighting abilities and powers and whatnot. They became awesome warriors, right? So these 3 brothers at one point were like, let's hold a tournament and let's see who's the greatest fighter, because they all have different fighting styles, right? So they started fighting, they made a tournament. That tournament went awry. In fact, a war broke out because they could not stop fighting. They sent in their greatest warriors to fight, they sent in armies to fight, and it was always a stalemate. So war just broke out. And the battles became bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger, starting from the tournament, right? So from like single duels and whatever to armies. So Allgard realized he fucked up because this war was going to spread into the mainland on Ethos, much like the Mirefold Scourge. So he realized he fucked up and he asked the gods for help. Kilo and Marinus stepped in and separated the brothers to 3 different islands. Kilo created mountains between the perimeters of these islands to stop the brothers from getting over to the other brothers' islands, right? And then Marinus created a fucking vortex, maelstrom, whatever, in the center of all 3 of these islands, so that if they ever tried to cross over seas, this vortex, this internal whirlpool and storm would stop them from getting to each other's island. This did not stop the brothers. They did not get to the mainland of Ethos or Scaethyn because they didn't care about that. They just wanted to fight each other. So now there are 3 islands on Ethos at the northeastern side where an eternal war is being waged by 3 different brothers with 3 different fighting styles. Now, this could lead to some, like, not sub-races, but maybe subclasses of a fighter. I just haven't really thought about it yet. But we will most likely never ever get to Three Brothers Rock ever. It's just kind of supposed to be a little cool place with some lore to it about how the gods work and stuff. But it also kind of shows that the gods are flawed and they do make mistakes. They do mess up. And Allguard realized that really quickly. So yeah, that's Three Brothers Rock. It's not super fleshed out. I just kind of created a cool little story for it to describe how the gods work and give it more lore things for Ethos. So yeah. Okay. That's it. That's Scaethyn. That's my world. That's the continent I have built. Now, like I said before, there are a lot of other little towns and villages that I've placed in this world. But I'm really not going to talk about them because, like, it really doesn't matter all that much. But, like, if I ever get excited about something that I built, I'll make a video about it, like I was telling you about Scaethyn in Lothmanger and how we'll get to there in the next episode. So, yeah, super excited about all this stuff and things to come. And, yeah, so that's Scaethyn. That's the Riftlands. Those are the regions I've built. Well, thank you for watching. If you stuck around to the end of this, appreciate you a lot. I hope you enjoyed listening me yap on about this and have a clusterfuck in my head. I can't word. Help. So yeah, that's it. That's Scaethyn. So again, thank you for watching. If you want to hear more about my world or about something, please let me know. I'm always looking to talk more about D&D and my writing and shit like that. So yeah. Okay. Bye-bye.